morning. This lecture video is about dimensional analysis, which is really just a fancy word for using conversion factors to convert a value of one unit into its corresponding value in another unit. Being able to do dimensional analysis is going to be incredibly helpful for you in this class going forward when we get to all of the different mole problems, going from grams to moles. So if there's a math skill that you should really get yourself to a point where you're confident about, I think it should be dimensional analysis. So here's how this works. What is dimensional analysis, right? Well, it is the process used to convert a value from one unit or set of units to another. So for instance, how do we figure out how many meters are in a mile? A mile is an English unit, meters is a metric unit, right? So we need to convert something in order to figure out meters, how many meters are in that mile. Or how many pounds in a kilogram, right? Two different units, and we need to be able to go back and forth between the two of them. Questions to ask yourself when you start to do dimensional analysis is, number one, what is a starting unit? What are we starting with? We're starting with pounds, for example. What is the unit we want to obtain? Well, we want to convert that to kilograms. And then finally, what conversion factors can we use to get from the starting unit to the desired unit? Conversion factors are going to be fractions where the numerator and the denominator are in equal quantities expressed in different units. So for instance, 1 liter over 1,000 milliliters. There are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. Okay? Now you can write conversion factors as their reciprocal because these are equal. 1 liter is the same as 1,000 meters, so you can either write it this way or you can write it this way because it's equal. This is going to be important because basically what we're going to do here is we're going to cross multiply or eliminate units in order to get to the unit we want. So the really great thing about dimensional analysis is that when you do it correctly, you're like checking your work as you go. So at the end, you'll be able to see exactly what unit is left over, and that should be the unit that you're looking for. So let's go over an example together. Jackie is 6 feet tall. How tall is she in centimeters? So let's start with what we know, what we started with. We know that we're starting with 6 feet, so we'll write that right here. Okay? I usually write that as a fraction, so 6 over 1, just as kind of a placeholder as we go through. We want to, the second question we ask is, where do we want to go? The units that we want is centimeters. We know that there is 1 foot and 12 inches. We know that there's 1 inch. There are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. So we can use these conversion factors to get us to a point of feet to centimeters. Here's how this works. So we started with 6 feet, correct? We're going to use a conversion factor in order to go from feet now to inches. In order to cross or cancel out the units, we have to go from top to bottom. So we have to put feet down here in order to be able to cross those off. They would cancel each other, those units would. We know that there is 1 foot. There are 12 inches in 1 foot. Okay? This 1 foot, 12 inches is equal. So we would then cancel out the units that are from top to bottom. And if we stopped right here, the units that's left over is inches. But we don't want inches, we want centimeters. So we have to go one more step. So we add another conversion factor here. If inches is on top, then inches has to be on the bottom. We know that there are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. So 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Inches would cancel, and you are left now with the only unit that hasn't been canceled out, which is centimeters, and that's the unit that we want. So we know we can be done here. So now all we do is multiply across the numerator and multiply across the denominator, right? So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 6 times 12 times 2.54 equals 183. We know that that's in centimeters because that's the only unit that hasn't been canceled. And so our answer is 183 centimeters. So pretty slick, right? When you find a unit on top, in order to cancel that out, you need to make a conversion factor where that unit is then on the bottom. Feet to feet, inches to inches. And eventually, you're going to get down to one unit that hasn't been canceled out, and that's the unit that hopefully is the unit we want, is the unit we're looking for. So let's try another example here. We have 1 gallon of milk is equal to how many milliliters? So let's start with what we know. We know we have 1 gallon of milk, right? And again, I just put it over the 1. Just helps you kind of see the fraction. We want to get to milliliters at some point. So conversion factors that we know is that there's 4 quarts in a gallon. We know there's 0.946 liters in a quart. We know that there's 1,000 milliliters in a liter. So we're going to use these conversion factors to get from gallons to milliliters. So we'll start our first conversion factor. Gallons is on top, so we know gallons has to be on the bottom here in order to cancel it out. We have here 1 gallon is equal to 4 quarts. 1 gallon, 4 quarts. Cancel off the gallons. If we stop here, the unit is quarts, and that's not what we want. We want milliliters, so we got to do another one. Quarts is on top. Quarts would be on bottom. We know that 1 quart equals 0.946 liters. Quarts would cancel. So if we stopped here, our units would be in liters, but that's still not what we want. We want milliliters. So we have to do one more. Liters on top, so liters would go on the bottom. 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. Cancel the unit. And now, the only unit that hasn't been canceled is milliliters, and that's the one we want. And so the answer then becomes 3,784 milliliters, and that's what we wanted. So, again, practice these till you're comfortable with them. I will attach some practice problems for you to work on and an answer key to those, but make yourself really familiar with this process. Again, it's going to make all of the math in here so much more easier if you understand how to do this. And like I said earlier, it's a really cool way to check your work, right? Because at the end, you're ending up with what you needed. And so you kind of know that what you've done is correct. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I will always Zoom with you or meet with you in person to help go over this if you need it. Have a great day.